Hello, welcome back to I Say Our Wrong Reads, and to this is my April wrap-up. So, April's just finished, and I actually haven't read that many books this month, only 5 in total, which isn't too much, but I have not been reading too much. I've been trying to, because I'm coming up to my exams, so I've been studying, and when I get to the end of the day I just don't want to read, so I've just not been. So 5 books is all I've been doing, so this will be a rather short wrap up. I'd also like to apologise for my extremely wacky hairstyle that I seem to be sporting today. My hair will not sit properly. So let's get straight into it. So the books that I did read this month were mainly books that I have read before. I think, well, only 2 that I read before out of the 5. Mainly because they were favourites, or I was wanting to reread them to see how I thought about them later. The first of these were The Last of the Gadarene by Gatiss, and this is a Doctor Who book featuring the Third Doctor, Jo, Benton, and the Brigadier. This was okay. I found it alright. It was kind of middle of the road. I quite find Gatiss's books, especially 3, he does write for them very well, but they are typically middle of the road books in the sense. I did find that the midway twist was very good, probably one of the best master reveals I have experienced in Doctor Who before. I really did enjoy it and thought that it was probably the strongest part about this story. I think I gave this one 3 stars in the end. But yes, it was very enjoyable. The story was alright, the setting was alright. There did seem to be a lot of minor characters, which got me a little bit confused at times, which I don't really normally find, but there was like a lot of named characters that only popped up for like 2 or 3 times but got their own little section, and I got a bit confused at the amount of them. The bad guy was kind of forgettable, other than them. But when that master twist came about halfway through, it was probably one of the best executed twists that I've experienced the Doctor Who, and definitely the best master reveal that I didn't see coming, almost. Life During Wartime was my next one, which was a short story anthology edited by Cornell, and focuses on Bernice Summerfield, which is the main character. So essentially this is just 25 short stories set during this period of her life, almost. So these ones were set during when the Fifth Axis, which is kind of like a space Nazis almost, invade the Braxitel collection where Benny lives and works, and it's essentially her surviving during the occupation of this, and essentially how they cope. So it's a very, very character focused thing rather than plot focused. It explores how the set of characters, so Irving Braxitel, who owns the planet, Benny, her son Peter, his father Adrian, and Benny's ex Jason all cope in different ways with the occupation of the planetoid, and it's a very, very compelling character study which is just beautifully written. I don't think I've got a particular favourite, but I do really like a lot of the short stories, including the ones which focus on Brax and the way that they deal with it, and the gardener actually with the crystal flower, and how sometimes it can just be spite that keeps you going, and how important it is to keep going in the face of adversity almost. And it's just such a heartwarming, not heartwarming because it's quite horrifying, but inspirational way of getting through the day. It's like, just take one day at a time. If you feel like you can't do anything, if you're overwhelmed, just keep going. Eventually you'll see something worth going for, and then you can keep going on that front. But yes, I really enjoyed this one. I give this 5 stars. This is definitely a reread for me. I read it numerous times before, but it just gets better with each read. So then I listened to 2 audiobooks. The first being The Durrells of Corfu by Michael Hagg. which I really enjoyed the Durrells, the TV programme that was on ITV, which had Keely Hawes in it, and I was always meaning to read the Gerald Durrell's trilogy of Corfu novels, which I never actually got around to doing, but this is a non-fiction about their lives in Corfu, how they got there, that kind of thing. It was vaguely interesting. I enjoyed listening to it. It was definitely different from how the TV presented it, but it was good all the same. And I could see where they got the inspiration to transfer it, and it's just made me want to read the Durrell novels even more than I did before. So I will eventually get onto that, I guess, but you know, it takes some time to get them. I gave this one 3 stars, I think. It was it was middle of the road. It was very short, so it didn't really go into depth. It just kind of skimmed over a lot of the stuff that I feel like other things would have gone in depth in. And in other things it went super in depth in things that I wouldn't expect it to, so it was very a mixed bag for me, but I did enjoy the writing style. The narrator was very good. I listened it to my library with Libby, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one. And then I read Twas the Nightmare Twas the Nightshift Before Christmas, which was by Adam Kay, which is a follow-up to his This Is Going to Hurt, stories of a junior doctor, and it was essentially just stories of a junior doctor set around Christmas, and kind of funny stories, amusing stories about the NHS, about how junior doctors work, that sort of thing. It was very much a follow-on from Twas the Nightshift Before Christmas, whatever it is, but it was good. It was humorous, had a lot of fun stories in it. I definitely think if you've read This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, that you would enjoy this one. This was narrated by Adam Kay as well, which I actually read the book physically the first time, and then I listened to the audiobook of this one, so it was different, but the way that Adam Kay brings it across in the audiobook is very, very funny. It's almost a comedy when you're reading it. It's a lot different between the two mediums, but I would recommend the audiobook of that one for sure. And yeah, so I gave that one 4 stars, I think. Yes, I gave it 4 stars. And then, last up was the only other book I read this month, and it's because it took me so long to get through it, and that was The Starless by Erin Morgenstern. So, first things first, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Second things, I had no idea what was going on half the time. Still don't know what was going on. I'd probably have to reread it to understand a bit more about it. I read The Night Circus about this time last year, after it's sitting on my shelf for ages, and I really enjoyed it, and a lot of people were confused about what happened in that too, but I think I understood it, and I enjoyed it. This one, however, not got a clue. It's very abstract, but it is beautiful prose, and the way it's written is beautiful, and the characters are very well developed, and it's just very well done on total. It's just the plot was a bit convoluted, and I wasn't entirely sure. The characters were very, very strong though, particularly the main character Zachary and his the library keeper I really liked, and Dorian and Allegra, and they were all very good characters. Again, it was just a bit confusing towards the end, and I wasn't really sure what was going on. But yeah, I think I gave this one 4 stars as well, but I might put this into 3 just because I feel like I ought to reread it to kind of understand what was going on more along the lines of the plot compared to like the story almost. It was very confusing. That's pretty much all I can say about it at this point. So I will read it again eventually and understand it more at that point. So that was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So that was the 5 books I read in April. It was a very short video, so apologies, but I did end up starting a book that I thought I'd get finished, but again, I've not been reading that much, so I didn't actually get it finished, and that was His Bloody Project by Graham McCrae Burnett. This one I'm really split on. Not because it's bad or anything like that, or because I'm not enjoying it, but this is the kind of first book that I've read that's something that I'm familiar with, almost, with the environment, the atmosphere, the language that's being used, that sort of thing. And it's a very, very strange experience because there's not a lot of books out there set where, like, in this kind of setting. There is a lot of books set in Scotland which is about drug deaths and gang violence and murder, especially in the Central Belt. But this kind of atmosphere I've never seen before in literature, and reading it is a trip and a half. So I'll probably give you an update on how this goes once I finished it in next month's wrap up. But yes, it's a very strange experience. So that was my wrap up for April. I think my favourite book was probably had to be the reread of Life During Wartime by edited by Cornell. And my least favourite, I don't really think I had a least favourite. It probably would be the Durrells of Corfu, because I just felt like it didn't go in enough detail, but that was probably because it was too short to go in enough detail. Thank you for watching and listening. If you've read any of the books that I was talking about today, leave a comment down below and tell me about what you've been reading, because that'd be fun. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye bye.